So we say that facilities is the industry technology forgot. How many of you would kind of agree with that statement in some way, shape, or form? Many of us, right? In a lot of ways, it's 100% true. You see, in 1400 BC, the very first documented building inspection was written down in one of the oldest texts of human history, the book of Leviticus. Believe it or not, 3,400 years ago. That process, damage is reported by an occupant. Someone is dispatched to inspect that damage and document it in a tablet of some kind. Then they go back and they issue a request to repair that damage. Contractor comes out, repairs the moldy stones. The priest goes back, re-inspects the house, and determines whether the work was performed satisfactory or not. Sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same process we use today. 3,400 years ago. Think about it, you walked into one of your buildings last week, you had a $1,200 glass tablet in your hand, didn't you? There was a problem in your building, you walked over to it, you diagnosed it, you went back to your desk with notes typed into that tablet, you made a work order and dispatched a technician, you got a notification when it was done, you went and inspected it to tell whether it was right or wrong. Same process. The only thing that changed, we went from a stone tablet to a glass tablet. 3,400 years. Here's the staggering fact and why it matters and why you should really pay attention to what's happening in the industry today around technology. This manual documentation process costs our industry $90 billion, that's with a capital B, dollars in labor. This isn't just a number I made up or found through ChatGPT. This was published by the State of Our Schools report released in January of this year. It's a qualitative study over the last 12 years. So one more quick show of hands. How many of you have ever heard a technician say or said yourself when you were one, it takes me longer to document the work than to do it? All the time. I used to say it. I was a technician too. So why are we paying our... Exactly, right? It's not done until you document it. Why are we paying our technicians to be data entry clerks when we hired them to make repairs and keep our equipment running? Yeah, because if it's not documented, it didn't happen, right? So today I'm going to ask you to keep an open mind as we think about using a new kind of tool to do an old kind of thing. Please.
So I developed software for more years than we're going to mention. What if I never documented an ounce of the software I gave you to run?
Good point. That's right. Yeah, great point. And that's one of the things we're going to get into about why documentation is important and what we can do about it today. So here's where we're going. Where are we going to go today? First, I'm going to tell you about myself, my history, how I got to be the CEO of a prop tech AI company when I was just a carpenter. Then we're going to dive in and talk about what AI is and what it's not. I'm going to cut through the hype. I'm going to define it very simply for you. We're not going to talk about a lot of algorithms or math or anything like that. It's going to be very high level. Then we're going to look at why AI is so important and what it has to do with the impossible task that you are asked to complete every day. What does that look like? 3 case studies I'm going to share with you from real-world AI deployments. So this isn't just, hey, we hope it can work. We're seeing these things happen in the world today. And at the end, hopefully we'll have enough time for some questions. I think we will, because this usually only takes me about 30 minutes to get through. All right, with all that, you guys ready? Let's get into this AI stuff. What about, why is this not, oh, you know what, it helps if you turn the clicker on. I really am a technology savvy person, you know. Oh, nope, I guess not. I'll have to use the keys because it's not talking to my little thing. Cool, so who is this guy? Who is Billy Holder? Who am I? I could read all this stuff up there, but I'd rather tell you a story. I wasn't always a tech guy. 30 years ago, I was building houses in South Louisiana on a slab, sweating my butt off, getting sunburned and splintered. It's where I learned the foundation of process. One thing before another, punch lists, all of that, right? It's where I learned the skills that I needed to move on. And as life has it, something happened. A little hurricane called Katrina hit. Moved me and my family to Atlanta, Georgia. 2008, I became a maintenance carpenter at Georgia State University, the renovations team. I knew nothing about commercial carpentry. I had an argument once with my boss that I was a better carpenter than him because I knew how to use wood and he just played around with metal. So I used that as an opportunity, though, to learn. All right, I grew my skill set there, and I fell in love with this thing called facility management. I didn't even know it was a career opportunity. After about a year and a half, I moved over to the maintenance side of things from renovations, and I spent the next 8.5 years as a maintenance carpenter at Georgia State University. I fell in love with it. The simplicity of it all, just the order, the structure, everything has a way of being and doing. I got an opportunity to lead people next, and I went to Georgia Tech, where I became the carpentry supervisor for the Georgia Tech Department of Housing and Residence Life, where I built a culture that stands to this day on 3 words: quality, time, and excellence. Just went there over the holiday break. Those words are still hanging in that shop. Those guys still believe in it. After a few years at Housing and Residence Life, I went to Georgia Tech Campus Recreation, where I got the title of facilities manager. Finally, I'm a manager. I really know what I'm doing, right? Now, that was a tough place to learn too. What I learned there carried me into Microsoft, into the corporate world. After 17 years in higher education, somebody on the outside took a chance on me. I fell into this world of AI, where we were walking through BIM caves with an AI agent next to us telling us about the building. It's amazing. And this is where I first saw what AI can do for facilities. Short time after that, 9 months go by, and I got a call from an old boss from Georgia Tech, said, "Hey, I got a problem, and you're the only guy that can solve it." 17 months later, I still hadn't fully solved his problem, but I had an idea. See, it was turn season. We had about 1,200 rooms that we had to get through. I had 4 people on my staff. We had 10 days to turn over documentation to the housing team. We were integrated facility management. It was a contract deliverable. Impossible. Couldn't do it. We did not meet that deliverable. I looked at my team and said, "It'll never be like this again if I have anything to say or do about it." So I quit that job and I launched Project Aidra, because on the way to a bike race in Opelika, Alabama, I asked my wife what we could do, and we're talking about the problem, and it hit me. What if we could have AI do this for us? What if I could just take a picture of the bedroom, upload it to AI, and have it tell me what the damages are in the condition of the room? Now, I'm a carpenter, right? I don't know anything about AI. I don't know how to program anything. I've built a couple websites on WordPress. That's about it. But I knew people, and I called a friend and said, "Hey, James, can we do this?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." In 24 hours, James had built the prototype for Project Aidra. And today, I can't wait to share with you what we've been able to accomplish for the facilities teams that are deploying us on their sites. In short, our vision is just to liberate people from the manual documentation process, to put them back in the field where they belong, turning the wrenches and doing the work to keep our buildings alive, running, and taking care of the most important asset, the human being. All right, I promised to break this down AI for you in 4 simple types. Here we go. And at the end, there'll be a QR code. If you want the slides, feel free to hit that, and I'll just email them to you. 4 types of AI that are most common. Yes, there are other types. Yes, there are different ways of doing things within each of these types. We're not going to get in the weeds. Number 1, language. Language AIs are probably the most common prevalent things that you see out there. Chat, GPT, Perplexity, the blinking cursor in the black box, right? Anybody use those? Any of those? A couple of you. I use them all the time. These are fluent in human. They can speak, read, write, do math, make pictures. They can do all of these things for us in a fraction of the time. The next piece is vision-based AI. Has anybody ever used Google Lens or equivalent to identify a part, or maybe a flower for your kid? Yeah, that's a type of vision-based AI. It can see, it can understand visual context, and it can give you a report out on that. That's the underlyings for Project Aidra and how we do it, along with machine learning. Now, machine learning is probably the oldest type of AI that there is. They used it to put the landers on the moon. Believe it or not, AI is not something new. It's been around as long as computers have. Machine learning can adapt, it can predict, it can see future state through this mathematical formula. And it can give you that. Machine learning is also how AI can get smarter. We can regurgitate information into it and say, this is right, this is right, this is right. But if you don't tell it this is wrong, machine learning is how AI gets dumber. So just remember that. And the last one is the most recent addition to popular media, Agentic AI. Comes from the word agent or agency, meaning that it can act autonomously, that it can use other tools on its own with simple instruction, and, sorry, that ding kind of threw me for a loop. It typically can combine these other three types and use them in conjunction. That's kind of how we're doing it with Aidra, right? We can take the images, the videos, the audio, we can combine it all in, and then we have a language model that writes a report for you. So as we go through today, I want you to think about, as these things pop up, the different ways that they're being used and how you might deploy them in your facilities. We're going to cut through the hype. What AI is, what AI isn't. AI is new in a lot of ways. The language models and those kind of things, they're new to us. And as an AI business owner and a facilities professional, I'm going to tell you something you probably didn't expect to hear. Our industry, in a lot of ways, is not ready for AI. Now, why am I saying that? Because we don't have the data infrastructure of our buildings. We don't have a central data lake of all of our information for AI to pull from. But while we're not ready for it, we're perfectly positioned to make it happen. Because we have these voids and these vacancies, we can use AI to get that data, build that data lake from a central point of gather. All right, so what will AI not do? It's not going to replace your expertise. It's not going to replace your team. We'll always need people to build. We'll always need people to maintain. We'll always need people to repair things. And I don't care what Sam Altman says, it's not a magic wand. You're not going to be able to type a prompt into AI and have it fix all your problems overnight. It's just not going to happen. What will it do? Well, AI is going to make us a lot better at what we're already doing. It's going to free you from the mundane tasks so that you can get back to doing that work that really matters. It can document your inspection walks for you. It can create work orders from those inspection walks. It can collect your asset data just from a picture. It can write scopes of work. The list goes on and on. There's so many things AI can do for us and with us that it's almost magic. Even though I said it's not, it almost is. There's three companies that I'll mention real quickly. Voxel is a vision-based safety system. So they use computer vision, like I was talking about earlier, to monitor job sites, manufacturing, etc. And they can identify safety hazards, alert the safety manager so that retraining can be done. You have the documentation, root cause analysis, etc. It can all be done in minutes. It's instantaneous alerts, right? That's improving safety records in a lot of organizations today. Another one, this one might be interesting for some of y'all in design and construction, is called Aidra. Aidra can take a 2D photograph and turn it into a 3D rendering in Revit in 4 hours. You can take a picture of this room, upload it to Aidra, and in 4 hours I can have a 3D rendering to scale in Revit. And then the other one is us, right? We're doing a lot of cool things that I'll share later that I think you guys will actually really enjoy. It can do a lot more than take a picture of your dog or make a post for LinkedIn. AI is a tool that we can use to be better, faster, and smarter. And that's how I want to frame today's talk. AI is a tool that we can use. I mentioned the report from State of the Schools earlier. If you were in the Gordian talk earlier, we kind of touched on it in Q&A session there. Anybody want to guess, fill in that blank for me? What's the funding gap in K-12 higher education right now, facilities and operations funding? $90 billion. $90 billion. That equates to a lot of big numbers, but breaking it down, the national average is $1,537 per student spend on maintenance. Now in South Carolina, you guys are doing great here. You're actually spending a little bit less, and that means you're doing a little bit better, right? Or no, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Spending a little bit more, and more than your neighbors. So North Carolina's at 1021. I mean, Georgia's at 1021. North Carolina's at 948 per student spend. But even as national leaders, you're still facing a $220 per student gap in funding. Why? Why? That's the big question ever. Why don't we have enough money to get this done? Why can't we get that fixed, right? That's what everybody always asks. Across the state, this represents $1.73 million in shortfall from local funding. Why? Because the federal government only provides 3% of your facilities budget. 80% comes from local, about 17 to 20, depending on your state, comes from the state. So nationally, 17%. It's a big gap. We can't tax our way out of that, can we? It's a lot of money. What does this mean? It means labor. Labor shortages. We hear about labor shortages all the time. How many of you have a position open right now? At least one. Yeah, right. IFMA, the International Facility Management Association, they have all the data on labor and just released a study this last December. And despite South Carolina being the one state that's leading the nation with a 32% expected openings for increases in staffing, you still have a 3.7 month lead time on filling that position. Does that sound about right, y'all? About 3.5 to 4 months to fill a position? So if you could take a process that needed to be filled today and do a 4-hour onboarding and have that done while you're filling that 4-month process to get that person in the door, it makes sense to take 4 hours, do what you got to do. Meanwhile, you can still move on with hiring that other person, but you have projects due today. You have work that needs to be completed now. You can't wait 4 months to bring an electrician on so that he can have oversight on a contractor. You need that today. If everyone in this room was managing a school, look to your left, look to your right. One of you is managing a brand new school. The other two, you're managing a liability. And I say that with all reality that there is. 40% of our floor space, over 51 million square feet in the state of South Carolina, was built before 1980. And that means nearly 1 out of every 3 schools is legally containing hazardous materials. I'm not going to say which ones they are, but you all know the ones, right? The A word, the L word, We're not going to say them, but you know them. Meanwhile, South Carolina's building schools quickly, investing in new infrastructure. But we're not maintaining what we've got. Who thinks we're going to maintain what's being built with no increases? $38 billion inheritance of new infrastructure. And we already have a $173 million shortfall. We cannot build our way out of this. We can't tax our way out of this. The only way that we can find a way out of this is to look at the problem differently. I mentioned the impossibility of it all. Anybody ever heard this in their day-to-day? It's budget season. Do more with less. Right? I remember being in the seats of the FMs. I was there for a long time. And believe it or not, even in corporate America, do more with less is a mantra that they believe in facilities. Because facilities to most organizations is a cost center. What most organizations don't understand is we hold the keys to the bottom line. Even though we can't work harder and we can't hire more people, we can look at this problem differently and we can help our organizations grow. No one ever changed the world by turning a widget sideways. You just have a sideways widget, right? Henry Ford was famously quoted as saying what? If I'd asked people what they wanted, they'd say, faster horses. What did Henry Ford say? What if we didn't need the horse? And mass production of automobiles was born, changing the world. The Wright brothers, two bicycle mechanics from Ohio, go to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, look at the sky, and what they say? What if we could fly? We're at the same place in facilities. We have an opportunity to leap off a cliff and do it differently. And this is where AI can come handy. I know it sounds crazy. We've never had an opportunity like this in facilities. We skipped digital transformation 20 years ago because the pen and paper was good enough. I tell you, going forward, it's not. And we're going to look at some research that shows that. If we can empower our teams today to do things differently and to do more with what they already have, you're going to see the ROI in days, not weeks, not months, not years, days. And I've got the data to prove it. McKinsey, huge company, does a lot of studies. They looked at AI readiness across the world. And they determined that out of the top 500 companies in the world, 1% were what they call AI mature. So 1% of 500. Not a lot of companies. Now, what's AI mature? What does that mean? AI mature means that they were using AI to solve problems that improve the bottom line. They improve the business as a whole, not just one little window of it. The companies that are reaching this level, they're not using better clipboards. They're not using better legal pads. They're using AI solutions that fundamentally change the way they do business. They've cracked the code on AI. They've done this by eliminating the labor tax. What do I mean by the labor tax? Not the taxes we pay to the state, the tax of manual documentation. An organization in the study eliminated their sales manual creation process that took 16 weeks. They took it to 4 days by using AI. It involved over 60 people in their organization. Did they eliminate those 60 people? No. They took those 60 people and they redeployed them across the organization where they could use their creative talents to better use for the company. They moved them into marketing, into sales, into other areas of the company. That's just one way that one company did it. Freeing their people for real work. When you're not burning hours on paperwork, what would you be doing instead? Would you be out in the field managing by walking around? Would you be out checking on your guys, training, upskilling, improving the quality of work, checking in with your customers, making sure they had what they needed? Also, your team, not having to document everything manually, now gets to do the work that matters, preventative, predictive maintenance. Siemens tells us that unplanned downtime costs 11% of our annual revenue. That's a big number. And for revenue generating organizations in public sector like housing and parking and all of these other revenue generating spaces, that can be a big chunk of your budget. So what can AI do? By improving this documentation time, you have audit-ready documentation on hand. Think about your systems like your monthly fire extinguisher inspections. Yes, you outsource your annual sprinklers, your annual fire inspection, but we're supposed to do them monthly too. Most of us don't. If you just had to take a picture and go, might be easier on your daily walk-arounds. No more scrambling, it's there. You have it. And remember what I mentioned earlier about the data lake? If you're collecting all of this information on a regular basis and using AI to do what it's great at, which is sorting unstructured data. That's what AI is great at. If you can do that, you can build this data lake that your entire organization can use. Finance, administration, everybody can tap into this. Think about how much faster decisions can be made when you all are looking at the same data set. It can really change the way business is done. All this is great on paper and numbers and studies and data, right? All that's great. But what does it really look like? That's what you want to know. What does this look like? It's not AI. It's not sci-fi. It's an everyday FM like you and me that gets to have superpowers. So I talked about the 4 types of AI, and I'm going to throw a word out here now called multimodal. Who knows what multimodal AI is? Okay, multimodal AI is a combination of those other types of AIs, right? So Agentic uses a bunch of different ones. We commonly would refer to that as a multimodal system. So in this case, we've got a fire extinguisher over there, right? I mentioned fire extinguisher inspections. Multimodal AI can take a video of that tag, sees the gauge, reads the hydrostatic date. It's documented, it's done. There's your monthly, it's over. You've got your asset data, you've got your compliance data, and it's all documented for you. And that data can then be used, again, from the front lines to the C-suite, to the president's office, whoever. Asset inventory, data plate, got it. How many of you have ever gotten an accurate handover document that was 100% included your asset registry? Yeah, none of us ever. That doesn't happen. We can now. Why doesn't it happen? Because it takes forever to build that asset registry. Now it doesn't. The middle picture is a thermal image of a breaker. Anybody see something wrong in that breaker? Looks hot, right? Yeah. How many of you are familiar with NFPA 70B? I highly encourage you to go look it up. As of January 2026, the National Electric Code adopted NFPA 70B as the law of the land. We'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide later. But it's important that we have thermal imagery. It's the law that we have it. Starting in January, they're giving you a 3-year grace period to get current. I know a lot of us don't report to AHJs, but some of us might. And it's good practice anyway. AI can detect anomalies that humans can't necessarily see. And when you take a trained technician and an AI superpower tool, and you put them together and you're using multimodal AI to have voice, video, you put those together, now you have a supercharged technician that is really able to get deep into this stuff. Whoop, I skipped ahead. There he is. This look familiar? Walk in the halls. Normally, what would that be? A clipboard. Oh, there's a scuffle on the wall. And you go back, right? Now we can do what's called continual condition assessments. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the words facility condition assessment. That process, it's 3, 5, 7, 10-year process. You look at a holistic snapshot of your properties, of your portfolios, your buildings, and then you make capital decisions based on those. In theory, you make those decisions. But in reality, that PDF sits printed out on your desk, hanging on a clipboard on the wall, in a PDF file in design and construction, and you don't have access to it as a facilities manager. Sound familiar? Now you can do this on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, however you want, to walk through your space and just capture it in its reality, real state. But you walk this room 2 minutes, 3 minutes, document everything in it. If you had to walk this room and document all the deficiencies by hand, it would take 30 or 40 minutes. This is where AI can really help us out. So, case study time. I told you I'd get there, and we are going to get there. This is Brent Ward. Brent Ward is a facilities manager and a now facility consultant. He's been in the industry longer than I have, for 35, almost 40 years now, I think. And Brent is one of our customers in transparency. He got a call from a facility, 70,000 square foot church facility in San Diego, California. They were going through acquisition and did not have an asset registry. They hired him to create that asset registry for them. He estimated it would take them 3 days to walk that 70,000 square foot facility, write everything down using his process, go back, create the report, email it to the owner. He was alone for the most part, except the security team on site, because it was a vacant site. He was actually able to complete that asset collection in 4 hours. Using our software, he walked through, taking just single photos of every piece of equipment, uploaded it, and that is part of the asset registry that he received. And that's probably more data than you get on a handover document. You're not going to get electrical ratings. You're not going to get refrigerant types. You're going to get, at best, brand, model, serial. Further to this side of that spreadsheet, because I had to zoom it in so you guys could see it, are things like condition data, data plate legibility. All of these things that matter to us as practitioners, that don't really matter to those people that are just installing it or contract maintaining it. Brent said, and I quote, "If I had done this manually, it would have taken me weeks to get all of this information." He found units over 40 years old that had R22 refrigerant still in them. He was able to recommend them for replacement. Hey, you guys need to put this in your acquisition offer. You're going to have to replace these because the EPA says you can't use this anymore, right? You can't even get it anymore. So things like that a lot of people wouldn't even know. There's technicians out there today that have never seen a can of R22. So what else did this give Brent the opportunity to do? He only spent 4 hours on a 3-day assignment. He was able then to go back, spend more time with the client, explaining that asset registry to them. They said, well, while you're here, can you do thermal? I sure can. And our thermal module helped him do that. Identifying modes. I'll show you one here in a minute. So no more waiting weeks for these reports. And this is what we like to call a win-win-win. Everybody's winning. You're winning, the owners are winning, the students are winning. We're all getting the information we need to make decisions faster. Let that play for a second. I'm sure you guys are familiar with turn inspections. At least some of you are. And as you know, facilities teams in housing live and die by turn. It's 12 weeks. The students are coming whether you're ready or not. You've got to get these rooms ready. CGL is a partner, a client of ours. They have 5 universities in the state of Georgia. You can see them there on the screen. They had about 3,500 room suites across their 5 portfolios. The suites were 2x2s, 4x4s, so I just kind of averaged everything out as far as time goes. We took their labor of doing that manual inspection, of walking every room and documenting it, from 6,000 hours to 1,300. We eliminated nearly 2.5 annual labor hour sets from their summer term. So normally, you've got an army of residence assistants, the RA, all these people come out, and everybody's on their 3-sheet carbon copy checking boxes. Now, what you just saw in that video is all that's needed to be done to create a report. This is the executive summary of the report for that room. Just highlight a couple of things, right? None of this was done by a human. 100% of this was done by AI. All of the determining what was wrong, everything. If you notice in the early, right as we turned to go into the bedroom, up on the ceiling, there was a water stain next to a sprinkler head. Would you look where it says ceiling? The ceiling is flat, painted white, a noticeable water stain present in the above the kitchen cabinets. It identified a hazard, a potential leak, and said, hey. Now later on in the report, it tells you what needs to be done, et cetera, who needs to come out and fix it, all that stuff. But a tired technician, what are they doing? They're looking at their sheet. Tired RA, they're looking at their sheet. They're not looking up. AI has eyes that can see what we can't because it has a wider field of view. We have blinders when we do our walks. I did. We get used to seeing things. We become nose blind to certain issues in our facilities. AI is like a fresh set of eyes every time. It doesn't get used to it, doesn't get it normal. So this process, when we did the math for them and we watched them do their original process, it took 5 people that were engaged, from the technician walking the space to the FM, verifying the work and building the initial report, sending it to the regional then, combining that with the other reports. From there, it went to the admin, who combined everything into a bigger report for the director, who then reviewed it and sent it to housing. That whole process took about 6 hours of labor when you add it all up. Now, in 8 minutes, technician can walk the suite, 4-bedroom, 4-bath, and common area kitchen. 5 minutes later, the report is done. One person, 13 minutes per room. That's the joy of this. That's what gets me excited. Like, think about that. This means they can get started fixing things on day 1, not day 14, not day 32. And that documentation requirement they had to give 10 days, it's done in a few. You can download it all into one spreadsheet and it's done. Cost estimations, everything provided for them. So the units get turned faster. What else does that mean? The technicians aren't burned out. There's no more mandatory overtime. They've eliminated that. They've eliminated their holiday blackout, like vacation blackouts. People get to go home, spend time with their families. That's why I do this, really, because it's about the human impact. We talked about thermal. We mentioned briefly NFPA 70B. Got a few more little things here on thermal that I want to show you. Oh yeah, we're good on time. From building envelope, electrical distribution. Hey, stop clicking. I hate this double clicking mouse. And thermal anomaly detection. Drone video, thermal drone over a roof detecting wet spots. AI can pinpoint those wet spots, pinpoint the equipment for you. It can look at exhaust temperatures of fan exhaust. If you're looking at a detailed enough thermal image, it can tell you which equipment's running hot, what's running cold, where are your cold and wet spots. Do we have any energy managers that do transmission lines in the room? No? Well, just in case, if you know one, flying drones along transmission lines. You get right up to transformers, telephone poles, see those deficiencies. You can identify them. We're not putting humans at risk anymore. You don't have to get a bucket truck out there. You don't have to pay a guy $150 an hour to climb a pole. You just got to pay this guy to go fly his drone, and he can do that from the comfort of his car with his visor on, sitting in air conditioning. And this last one is the anomaly detection. So this is one of Brent's photos that he took at that site. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's targeted on the back of that motor. There's a white hot spot, and it's 134.9 degrees. The low temp on that site is 60.4. That's a 79-degree delta. Something's not right. Something's not right. And the AI was able to determine that there was a problem in this motor, and you need to have a motor tech come out or an electrician come out and inspect it. It said so in the report. Right. Now, when it comes to the NFPA 70B stuff, this is why it's so important. That anomaly detection has to be documented. NFPA 70B says you must conduct thermographic inspections on all electrical equipment. Now, it has some voltage ratings and things like that, but if it's under a certain voltage, you don't have to. But talking about big equipment, air handlers, VFDs, panels, all that stuff, right? It also says not only do you have to inspect it, you have to document that you inspected it. You have to document any deficiencies. And you have to have a repair plan, and you have to follow up that repair plan with a completed work statement. Our system gives you everything except that completed work statement in the first thermographic photo. Cost estimation, required contractor, proof that you did it because it's time stamped, right? All of that. AI can generate it, and it does it in minutes. In an earlier presentation, we heard someone say, our AI, and I'm not going to name names because I don't do that, but they said our AI runs overnight. This is near real time. A single photograph run through the system, maybe 2 minutes. A 5-minute video, maybe 7 minutes, if it's really a large video. Imagine having access to that data that quickly. And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with something that's bigger than facilities management. It's bigger than any of us individually in this room. It's bigger than us as an industry. What you're looking at isn't just a timeline of tools from over 3,000 years. It's a story of human civilization. 3,400 years ago, a priest documented the first building inspection ever done. 2,300 years ago, Greek architects were carving inscriptions into stone about the work that they had just completed. That's how we know so much about it. There's written record. 300 years later, Roman engineers filled ledgers with narrative descriptions. 1,000 years ago, medieval guild masters created what we now call the first punch lists of metalworks, where they wrote down what was wrong with swords, shields, etc., and then went back and documented when it was fixed. 250 years ago, James Watt's workbooks and steam engines became what we know now as the basis for asset management. And for the last 100 years, we've seen technological advancements unlike anything before. From cameras to typewriters to computers to cell phones to drones, and now the next evolution is on us. But the mechanism of each of these things throughout time has been one thing and one thing only: writing it down. From stone tablets to glass tablets, the only thing that's changed is the surface it's written on. So today, for the first time in over 3,000 years, we, as an industry, have the opportunity to change the mechanism itself. AI can see the defect along with the human, process the condition, record the data, input the data in the system of records, your CMMS, issue that work order, call the contractor, process the invoice, and tell you that it's all done. This means you and the technician get to go back to the world of what you were hired for, running the building and taking care of the most important asset that you are charged with every day, the human being. So a priest started this 3,400 years ago, and I am inviting you to come with me and take the next step as we take the journey into AI and how we can deploy it in our industry to make the world better. Thank you all for your time today.